Today's session is Recipe for VDP, a primer for successful campaigns. It is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today, Hans Sepp, Product Line Manager, and Giselle Delamorniere, Product Marketing Manager. Before I hand off the presentation to Giselle, I want to open up a quick poll so we can get to know a little bit about our audience. So you should see now a poll with 3 short questions. Please take a minute to give us your feedback on these. And as you do that, I will hand off to Giselle so she can get us going.
Thanks, Yael. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the finale of our 2015 World of Fiery webinar series. Hans and I are very excited to present today's session to you. So looking back to last year's World of Fiery webinar series, we did 2 sessions that also focused on VDP. So we wanted to let you know that we heard your feedback from our sessions and that we listened. We saw that many of you listening didn't do any VDP at all at the time, and that you wanted to also see step-by-step creation of VDP files. So today, we will show you the steps needed to get started with VDP, how to set goals and get the right information from your customers, how to use the tools that you likely already have in your shop to create a VDP campaign, and how to know when you might need a more advanced VDP solution. So the quote at the top of this slide, "Print is king," this is a quote from one of our customers that participated in one of last year's VDP sessions that focused on cross-media. If you missed those, we'll give you the links to listen to the recordings at the end of this presentation. But today, we really want to focus on the print aspect of personalized campaigns. Here's an example of a VDP campaign that integrates both email and print. This is an email I received that alluded to receiving a print piece in the mail soon. So when I did receive the printed piece, it was beautifully done. It was personalized in several places. There was a personalized URL or a PURL with a call to action, and then there was also a QR code to enter a giveaway. And so this printed piece, I thought, was really the showpiece of the cross-media campaign. It's the part you can see and touch, which to me makes it the most memorable. And that's why we say that print is at the heart of cross-media and why we're focusing on print today. So here's a few statistics that speak to the business case for offering VDP if you're not already. Highly personalized color direct mail generated a 3 times higher response rate than non-personalized direct mail. And 91% of printed direct mail is opened, which is pretty impressive if you ask me. I came across this quote while preparing this session, and I think it fits perfectly. Mailboxes don't have spam filters. And that's absolutely true. Every piece of mail received is at least touched and looked at. You can't really say the same for email. Most of us have junk email that we never see that gets automatically filtered and deleted. However, every one of us goes to the mailbox and at least looks at each piece of mail before we decide to trash it or keep it. And if that piece of physical mail is personalized, it's even more likely to grab your attention and stay out of the trash bin. So for these reasons, we're going to focus on the printed VDP piece today. Personalized print justifies a higher per piece cost for printed materials based on higher response rates and return on investment, as seen in the statistics I showed you on the previous slides. This helps you as the print service provider build a loyal customer base that comes back again and again and thus drives more business. This helps your customers more directly target their desired audiences, which then leads to higher response rates, producing happy customers that will want to come back to you again and again for future VDP projects. There's also many simple applications that can consume many hours of a graphic designer's time that can be implemented as a VDP template, such as business cards, postcards, other repetitive types of applications, which can result in hundreds of hours saved for a graphic designer each month. InfoTrends talked to a group of print service providers who currently didn't offer VDP services. Their reasons ranged from being too much of an investment and not being confident about how it would fit into their business model, to perceiving their clients wouldn't be interested, to not thinking that they had the technical and information technology skills to jump into offering VDP. So today, we'll show you how to get started doing VDP with tools that you probably already have in your shop. We'll also show you when you need to decide that you might need to invest in a more complex solution. Having the right database or customer list is really the key to a successful VDP project, but it doesn't have to be scary. We'll show you how to ask your customers the right questions, teach you how to show them the importance of setting important campaign goals, and help them get you the right information you need. With the knowledge we show you today, you can be confident in your ability to offer VDP and, most importantly, sell it to your customers. Take the consultative approach and educate your customers on why personalizing their print jobs will lead to more successful campaigns. With statistics like the 3 times higher response rate we showed a few slides ago, this is really an investment in your customers' success. The best way to get your feet wet with offering VDP, if you're not already, is to practice marketing your own business. Whether you do a test campaign to 20 or 2,000 customers, it's a great way to make sure that you've got all the right information and you understand what's needed. Today's print service providers need to help their customers be as relevant to their markets as possible, and personalized print is an excellent way to help your customers be more successful. If your customers are more successful, then your business will grow accordingly. So let's get started going into the steps for creating a VDP campaign. The first thing you need to do is determine what the goal of the campaign is. In other words, what is it that your customer wants to achieve with this project? For example, they may want to get people to attend a specific event, or they may want to promote a special offer that is designed to increase sales. You also need to decide what the key messages and calls to action are, and from this, you'll build any personalization around that aspect. By the way, we'll provide a checklist for you that contains all these steps as well as a lot more information, which will be sent out early next week. So no need to frantically take notes. We will make sure you have all of this following the webinar. The next thing you need to determine is who is the audience. Who is it that your customer wants to get the information to? Is it current customers, prospective customers, or all people in a certain region, market, demographic, etc.? It's also important to determine at this stage if there's a need to deliver different messages for different audiences. This isn't always necessary, but it can be useful to make your message more relevant to the customer's needs and wants. Customers do appreciate offers that seem to be targeted directly to them as opposed to a more one-size-fits-all approach. This is also proven to increase engagement and results in a quicker response to calls to action. The example postcard I'm showing you on the screen shows you how different messages can be targeted to different customer types. For example, each one of these may be customers who have participated in a similar activity in the past or perhaps have indicated an interest in this type of activity before. So once you've got your goal and your messages nailed down, then the next step is getting your customer list. This is the most important element of any VDP campaign. An accurate customer list is essential to successful campaigns, and this can be as simple as an Excel file. If you don't have a list already from your customer, there's lots of options to purchase one. You can purchase lists from publications or trade associations, or list compilers, brokers, providers like Dun & Bradstreet, Melissa Data, etc. You can have access to all kinds of demographic information and buying habits from the customer base that's interested you're wanting to target. We'll give you links to some example sources in our checklist that we give out following the webinar. The bottom line is it's not the end of the world if your customer does not already have a list ready to hand over to you for the VDP campaign. And most importantly, make sure the list contains all the information needed to support the campaign goals. For example, if the VDP job is for a car dealership that wants to send a special service offer to their customers, and that offer differs by the make and model car that they bought, the list needs to include that segmented information so you can structure the messages properly. The next thing you need to do is make sure all fields that can be used on your VDP piece are separated. And I'll show you an example of this in just a minute. If your customers have bad or incomplete data, then they're really throwing money away. There are many tools available that let you validate the database. This is especially important if you're working with a list provided by your customer. If you purchase a list, it should be accurate. On our VDP campaign checklist, we'll provide links that help you clean your Excel list, as well as information about third-party programs that are available to help you get your list to adhere to standards to take advantage of postal discounts, Again, a great reason to make sure your list is structured properly. And I want to emphasize that the best way to learn about working with customer lists is to take your own list and see what kind of campaign you could put together to it to market your business. Whether it's a mailing for 20 or 2,000 customers like we mentioned before, it'll be an excellent way to get your feet wet. Here's an example of a customer list that needs some TLC. The first and last names are grouped in the same column, so this means that if I wanted to address a mail piece to Hans by his first name only, I wouldn't be able to do that as the list stands right now. Also, the city, state, and zip are grouped in a single column, so I couldn't sort by zip code and receive potential postage discounts, as I mentioned on the previous slide. Finally, there's a typo in my email address, which means that if this was a cross-media campaign with an email component, that email would bounce. In this example, all the potential variable elements have been separated, and the email address has also been verified. Like we mentioned before, sorting your list properly can mean postage discounts, so again, this is why it's important to have all variable fields separated. Remember, your campaign is only as good as your data. The next thing you need to determine is how much of your printed piece will be variable. What are the variable elements that will have the most impact to the campaign? This is the information that you as the print service provider and your customer will need to decide early on in the design process, as it will greatly impact your customer list structure and the resources required. Again, this will also be able to be determined once you've got the customer list. And then finally, is this a more advanced multi-channel campaign that uses other variable elements such as personalized URLs or PURLs or QR codes? If so, do you have your messaging straight about what is going on in each one of these channels and what is the call to action for each? We'll show you a little bit more about working with PURLs later on during our demonstration. Our recommendation is that if you're new to VDP, start small and focus on your goals and make sure you have the resources. Focus less on tools and more on goals and data. To recap the steps that we went over, the first thing to do is determine your campaign goal, then get the customer list, determine how much of your printed piece is going to be variable, and finally, determine if other channels are needed.
All right, so I think before we move on to the next phase of our presentation and do some demos, let's open up another poll. Just a few more questions. We want to find out from you, our audience, about the applications you have, if you're using any VDP programs and so forth. So again, take a minute to go through that, and I think Hans will start off on our next part of the presentation.
Thanks, Giselle. Thanks, Yael. Before we start the demos, what do you need to start doing this yourselves? First, obviously, is a digital front end or DFE that is able to handle a VDP language. Preferably, this should be a Fiery, of course, and the poll results show that the majority of you do have a Fiery, so that's good news. Next, an application that is able to handle customer lists, like the ones we will be working with. This can be as simple as Excel, and no one needs to be an Excel ninja in order to get started. For layout, most applications suffice. Microsoft Word, Adobe InDesign, or even CorelDRAW if you want to use that. Any layout application that will allow you to merge customer lists into a layout will work with the technologies that we will demo during the next during the remainder of this presentation. For the more advanced, complicated variable data campaigns, you will require specialized apps like our own EFI DirectSmile, XMPy, or Fusion Pro. Now enough theory, let's show you how to create variable data jobs using Fiery FreeForm and applications like Microsoft Word and Adobe InDesign. We believe Fiery FreeForm is the easiest and simplest way to get started with variable data. Looking at our poll results, we see that a good part of you already do variable data, but there is a significant amount of attendees that have not started with doing variable data at all. If you do have a Fiery, like I mentioned, Fiery Freeform is a very simple way to get started. It's a standard feature on both the simplest and most advanced Firies. One of the main benefits is you do not require any special variable data applications to create and use Fiery Freeform templates. It uses the page overlay concept, and I will explain what that means later on during the demo. For the first demo, I will show you how to use Microsoft Word and its mail merge feature to create freeform optimized templates. But first, let's set the right example and focus on a few areas we highlighted in the beginning of this presentation. What's the goal? You want to begin using Fiery Freeform for your first variable data campaign, and you found a good candidate in the form of a simple newsletter. You discuss this with your customer, and you agree that a goal for this exercise is to see if personalization will increase the number of recipients reading the newsletter. If you want to measure the results, you can actually create a poll to get feedback after you send out the newsletter. You can use one of the many free solutions available online for this. With our goal set, let's look at the data the customer provided. I use Excel to open and look at the customer data. Everything looks okay. There's a header that shows what data is represented in what column. And we also see that the customer has even added a record identifier. For the first of many tips we would like to share with you is that adding a record identifier will make it much easier to reprint a personalized job. Instead of looking for a name like David, Gail, or John, you can tell the operator to reprint newsletter 6, 7, and 10. We see many cases that without this type of identifier, unfortunate events like paper jam or offline finishing disasters gone wrong. Trying to reprint variable data jobs become very cumbersome if you do not have a way to quickly identify the newsletter that you would like to reprint. So we have the data and it looks good. The customer has provided a layout for a newsletter that we would like to personalize. With Word, this is typically done using the mail merge feature. The designer has been kind enough to add placeholders where they expect the customer data to be merged. We see where to add address details and also a personalized header for the newsletter to show the recipient something is different about this newsletter. You will learn that in order to create freeform templates, we need to separate the static content from the variable content. A big tip if you use Word is that because it does not have the concept of layers like Adobe InDesign, its next best thing are text boxes. Our tip is to work with your customer, or if you are responsible for creating the layout, to use text boxes to simplify creating the freeform templates. I will guarantee it will save you a lot of time and effort. And while this is not a presentation about mail merge, let's quickly show you how to use mail merge to create the master template that we will use later on. So we will load the customer list. Word has identified the different columns and the data that you can enter. And we will start replacing the different placeholders in the layout. By quickly selecting the placeholders and replacing them with the mail merge data, you can start to change the layout and make it suitable for use with Fiery Freeform. We update the address details and we'll also add the record identifier in a very small font underneath the address details for use later on. Using the preview function, you can browse the customer list and see what the end result looks like in Microsoft Word. If required, you can also tweak the layout and check the end result again, all from Microsoft Word. Another tip, Instead of relying solely on the customer list provided to you, our advice is to also have a dummy list of customers with some short and some really long names, addresses, etc. This doesn't have to be a big list, but you will be able to quickly find issues like text overrun. When you create a FreeForm template, you first need to understand how FreeForm works. FreeForm works by merging variable content with the static content on the Fari. Knowing that, you will need to create a template that only contains the variable content and a template that contains the static content. As you can see here, we need to create two variants of the newsletter. One Word document that only has the variable data. This is the document which we will generate using Mail Merge with Word. In this case, we have an 8-page document with variable info on page 1 and page 8 and blank pages in between. This is matched with an 8-page document that only has the static content of the newsletter. When we submit both documents to the Fari, we can tell it to use FreeForm to combine both documents. The Fari will do all the hard work and combine the master, which will process only once, and merge that with the hundreds of pages in the variable document. Because we use text boxes, creating the variable and static templates in Word is pretty straightforward. There are without a doubt better methods, but selecting and removing the elements that we don't need, deleting them is quick and easy. For the variable template, we end up with an 8-page document with variable info on page 1 and 8 and the blank pages, and we do the same for the static template. For this demo, we will use the Fari print driver to create the master template. We open the print driver, select the VDP tab, and set it to create the master template. To merge the customer list with the master template we just created, we open the print driver again, select the variable data tab, and now select the master template that we created. When we select print, the variable content is sent to the Fari, which will then merge both variable and static content. You can even further optimize the amount of data Word needs to manage by using enhanced FreeForm. This is a newer version of Fari FreeForm, and it's available on all Faris running System 10 and up. The advantage here is that we don't need to add the blank pages in the variable document to make sure that the number of pages match both the static template and the variable template. And, truth be told, by having Word deal with less pages, merging customer lists is faster and way more stable. As you can see here, we have reduced the number of pages from 8 to 2, and with enhanced Fari FreeForm, the Fari will make sure that the correct page is merged at the correct location. This all happens on the Fari to achieve the best performance. This does require some setup, which I will show you how to do that using the print driver. But this is the variable template that we create for use with enhanced Fari FreeForm. You notice that we only have 2 pages per customer. Again, open print driver, and because I've already created the master template, I can now select it, and using the define mapping dialog, I can tell the Fari how many variable pages there are and how many pages we expect the newsletter to have. I will then assign the correct page in the correct page in the variable document with the correct page in the static document. As you can see here, we have assigned page 1 to page 1 in the master document and page 2 to page 8 in the master document. And when we send print, again, the Fari will do all the hard work and make sure that the correct pages are merged at the correct location. One of the other advantages of using Fari FreeForm is that the Fari will now treat these jobs as variable data jobs. That means that if you want to apply finishing or stapling finishing like stapling or make ready like imposition, the Fiery treats this as an 8-page newsletter for 500 customers instead of a job with 4,000 pages. For more information about VDP features like this on the Fiery, I would like to invite you to have a look at the session we did about this last year. From the poll, we've seen that many of you have not seen this, have not seen those sessions, and they contain some very valuable in-depth information about all the variable data features on the Fiery. We will share a link to these sessions at the end of this presentation. So what is the benefit of doing these types of mail merge with Fiery FreeForm? To quantify the amount of time saved, I did an old-fashioned standard mail merge in Word to see how long it would take to merge the customer list and save and send the data to the Fiery. You can see from the table on this slide that just merging, saving and sending took more than 20 minutes when using Word alone. It then took the Fiery 9 minutes to process all 4,000 pages. And it's not just the time Word needs to do all this. In my process, in the process while I was doing this, Word died on me twice before it was able to process the entire job. Now compare this to Fiery FreeForm. Because Word has a lot less data to process, it only took 4.5 minutes to merge, save and send the variable template. And since the Fiery had already processed the static content, merging and processing the total job, which is still the same 4,000 pages, only took 35 seconds. Please note this includes the time required to process the static template. When compared to a traditional mail merge, the time saved using Fiery FreeForm or enhanced Fiery FreeForm to generate the content, to process and print the job is considerable and significant. And because master templates are processed once, you achieve even higher gains if you want to print the newsletter for other customer lists. The other benefit of using Fiery FreeForm is that you add variable data features to otherwise very dumb jobs. With Fiery FreeForm, the Fiery treats these documents as variable data jobs, which you can finish or impose per customer. So for the second part of the demo, we will show you how to use data merge features in Adobe InDesign to create Fiery FreeForm jobs. And as the poll shows, an overwhelming majority of you do have InDesign and Word, so that's good news. And pleased to show you how you can use the tools that you already have to start creating more complicated variable data jobs. But again, let's stick to the program here and let's see what the goal is for this job. This is again a newsletter, but this time there's an added complexity. The cover page will change per type of customer. The customer also wants to see if a new sign-up procedure using a QR code, which has a personalized URL or URL, will improve the number of sign-ups for the quarterly event. Next, data. Looks good. Columns, headers, we know what the data means, but we do see that the personalized URL is not present. After a discussion with the customer, we know how to construct a URL, and we can actually use Excel to do that by using one of the many formulas available. In this example, I'm using the concatenate formula, which is basically a fancy way of telling Excel to glue multiple pieces of text and or numbers into a new word. So I'll find the URL that we require, make sure that it points to the correct campaign, which is the winter triathlon, and then add the record ID, which will tell the registration website which customer, which user wants to register for that particular event. I will copy paste the formula and Excel will automatically change the different URLs to point to the correct customer. Remember that you might not need advanced data applications to optimize how to change your data. If you spend some time in Microsoft Excel, you can use that and in many of its formulas to optimize and to add the data that is missing based on the different on the customer list that your customer has provided. Also note that Adobe InDesign, if you prepend a hashtag in the column name, it will see that as a QR code. If you prepend the @ sign, it will look for images at the location in that column. Before we get started, let me explain what the setup is for this newsletter again. As you can see, the layout has 6 pages. The final newsletter, however, is a 4-page job that has the address and QR code on page 4 of the final output. However, for each customer group, our customer wants to have a specific page that is targeted, that has targeted content for that group. You can see different front pages for tourism, local entrepreneurs, and employees. We will show you how to use enhanced FreeForm to create the different versions for this newsletter using only one Firebase FreeForm master. So here's the original InDesign layout with the 6 pages that contain all the info for the 3 different versions we would like to create. One of the main benefits of using applications like Adobe InDesign is that you can separate the static content from the variable content using layers. This greatly simplifies the process to create the 2 different templates that we need. As you can see, as you select and deselect the different layers in this layout, you can easily identify the static and variable content. The data merge process is straightforward, and because we prepend it, we select the data source in the data merge dialog, load the customer list, and because we prepended the QR information with the hashtag, Adobe InDesign actually recognizes this as information that we can add as a QR code. And the workflow here is similar to our previous example. We highlight the different placeholders and replace them with the data from the customer list. We can add, because we're using Adobe InDesign, we can add a QR code. I add the QR code. I need to update the layout to also add a call to action that by scanning the QR code, customers can register for the event. And using the preview function, I can see what the end result will look like in Adobe InDesign. If you use applications like Adobe InDesign, its layers feature is much easier and will help us to separate the variable content from the static content. Do make sure that if you make changes like I did, or add features like QR codes, that you add them to the correct layer. You would be surprised how many times these types of surprises you will run into. With the template creation done, we will now create the master job. We will now create the master template by selecting the correct layer and exporting that as a PDF as you would normally do from Adobe InDesign. So in this case, I have deselected the variable layer and export. I will export it as a PDF. I will use my favorite PDF settings and then create the PDF as I see fit. Adobe InDesign will gather all the content. To create the variable template, I select the different layer, disable the layer for the static content, and then using the data merge feature, data merge dialog, I export the variable content to a PDF. PDF creation is almost the same. And again, you can use your favorite PDF settings to create your variable templates. In this case, I've loaded the customer list for each different customer group. And I will repeat this for the other customer groups that we have identified. Please know that Adobe InDesign does not allow you to filter the customer list. So if you want to segment your customer list into different customer groups, like in this example, you need to do this beforehand. Again, Adobe InDesign does not have any feature that will allow you to segment the customer list in the application itself. Since we generated PDFs, we will use Command Workstation to import all templates in the Fiery. Using the file open, I will send it to the hold queue on the Fiery. And once all jobs have been uploaded to the Fiery, I will select the master template and create a different master document for later use for this job. The Fiery will process this job and make sure that the master template is available for the other jobs. Once it's done processing, I can now load the variable templates. And by selecting the correct master and using the preview to visually verify that I've actually loaded the correct master, I will again use the Define Mapping dialog for Enhanced Fiery FreeForm to tell the Fiery how to construct this job. So in this case, I need to move the variable content to the last page of my master content. I need to make sure that the layout and the order of the pages has been set correctly. And then for my first page, because we have different first pages for different customer groups, I need to make sure that the correct first page is loaded. I know that I also need to do this for my other customer groups, so I will create a Fiery preset to ease the creation for my other jobs. I can do a process and a hold, select OK, and the Fiery will now do all the hard work of merging the variable content, making sure that all the pages are at the right position, and make it available for print. As I've said, I've loaded. I will do this for my other customer groups, and by loading my preset, I can easily and quickly change the settings required for the different customer groups. And for the last customer group, I will actually have page 3 as my first page in my personalized newsletter. As I've told you before, the advantage of using Fiery FreeForm for PDF-based jobs like this is that we've now turned this PDF into a variable data job on the Fiery. And as mentioned before, the Fiery will now treat this as a variable data job where you can select customers rather than pages or sheets in a DOM PDF. You can see here that once we've previewed the actual the job that we would like to print, you also see that the Fiery shows this as a variable data job and figure sets, and you can actually select customers rather than number of sheets in your job. I've also measured the time required to process these jobs. And while the performance gains might not be as extreme as in the previous example, there was still a significant amount of time saved when using Fiery FreeForm instead of just doing a plain mail merge or data merge from Adobe InDesign. Also note that the data shows the time to process a job for a single customer group. But when you add the amount of time saved for the second and third customer group, the total savings add up quickly. Another tip is, as I've shown you, in order to repeat or in order to, if you want to automate these types of variable data workflows using Fiery FreeForm, it makes perfect sense to start using Fiery presets. Fiery presets can be reused in hot folders, virtual printers, or even Command Workstation drag and drop. And mentioned before, how to set up hot folders and variable data jobs, combining them with Impose or Finishing, has been covered in depth in our previous World of Fiery session on variable data. I would highly advise you to have a look and see that session. If you look at the different types of available variable data jobs, you can distinguish between 3 different types: mail merge, versioning, and full personalization. We've shown you that by using Fiery FreeForm, you will be able to tackle simple mail merge jobs using Microsoft Word and more advanced versioned and personalized jobs using Adobe InDesign. More advanced applications are required if you want to manage more complex variable data campaigns that contain fully personalized images, email management, etc.
So to recap what we've gone over in today's session, a successful campaign is really determined by the goal that you set, not necessarily by the specific tools that you use. We've shown you that many things are possible using InDesign and Word, and though a majority of you actually do have a Fiery, and many of you do use Fiery FreeForm, we hope we showed you some new ways today to use FreeForm that will allow you to make it even more powerful than you already probably thought it is. Again, a reminder to follow the checklist. Set a goal, get the customer list, determine how much of your piece is variable, and if you want to use anything multi-channel. And finally, eat your own dog food. Promote yourself and use your newfound VDP knowledge to promote your own business. So we've put together quite a few resources for you that you'll be able to have following this presentation. And just a reminder, if you have any questions for us, please submit them through the Q&A or through the chat window. So what we'll do following the presentation is we'll give you the actual demo files that we showed today, along with how-to guides for you to practice these on your own. And the good news is for the majority of you that have graphic designers on staff, these demo files would also be helpful for them to see how to begin designing for VDP jobs if this is something that they're not familiar with. As promised, we'll give you a checklist that contains our steps to a successful VDP campaign, as well as some additional information and resources that time didn't permit us to cover during the session today. We've referred quite a few times today to our VDP sessions we had in 2014. The good news, it looks like the majority of you that are on the session today were not able to join us for our 2014 series. So good news, we've recorded all of the sessions and they are available to you on our website. We will link the recordings and the resource pages for you in the presentation that we send out. Again, there's some great content about creating cross-media campaigns as well as a great overview of VDP tools on the Fiery server. Plus, we had conversations with actual Fiery customers who have been very successful with their VDP offerings. In addition, we've turned one of our customer discussions into a short video clip. This customer grew their VDP business from very basic services to an extremely high volume operation today, so it's a testament as to what can be possible with VDP. For those of you that are more advanced and you want to dip your toe into cross-media if you're not already, our very own EFI Direct Smile has put together an infographic that goes over the basics of cross-media and some really compelling statistics that make you, that would probably want to make you give it a look if you've not already. For those of you that want to know more about advanced VDP languages and more complex technical elements like working with transparencies in VDP languages, we've created a short video for you that will cover this in more detail, and this will be available on our resources page early next week. The EFI website has many pages dedicated to VDP as well as FreeForm, so we encourage you to check those out. Again, all of these links will be in the presentation and materials we send out following the webinar. We've talked a lot about FreeForm today, and we have a FreeForm kit. This is a free downloadable set of demo files and how-to guides for different vertical markets. This is another way for you to see the types of jobs that are possible using Fiery FreeForm, and this is available for you to download from our website today. And don't forget, 50% of you that are listening today, you've already got a Fiery server. That means you already have FreeForm. So we'd love to hear from you about your success with FreeForm, and if you find any of the information we provided you today very helpful. You can please send us an email at wof@efi.com, and again, we'll make sure you have that email address following the webinar. Our ABCs of VDP guide is a great overview of all things variable data and is downloadable at efi.com. And finally, we've got a comprehensive set of downloadable demo files and how-to guides sorted by the Fiery system on our website. There's quite a few VDP files available using both Fiery FreeForm and working with more advanced VDP languages such as PPML and PDFVT. As a reminder, everyone who registered for our webinar today has access to 3 online VDP courses and an e-learning bundle. These are part of our Fiery Global University and provide even more information about working with VDP on the Fiery server. We're giving you the username and password to get this course for free, and we'll send you an email with this information within a few days. To talk a little bit about some of our other Fiery products that are pertinent to VDP, EFI Direct Smile will be having an upcoming webinar that's an introduction to cross-media. And again, for those of you that are interested in getting into cross-media, this is a great introduction. And on the digital storefront side, which is our web-to-print software, there's also some upcoming webinars. And the webinar on October 29th is also related to what we're talking about today. It talks about direct mail automation and how it allows you to grow your business without growing your payroll.
All right. So lots of great information. We have questions coming in, so I'm going to give Hans and Giselle a moment to begin looking at those so they can prepare themselves to answer. As a reminder, we recorded today's session, as we recorded all of our sessions prior, and we will provide a link to that recording to you within a few days in our follow-up email. That email will also contain a link to a page that will have all the resources that Giselle just mentioned. We have a lot of material for you, and we do hope that you make use of it. As Giselle suggested, if you have feedback, questions, want to tell us how you're doing with FreeForm, send us an email to wof@efi.com. We would love to hear what you've learned, how you've taken the information you've learned today and are using it. So with that, let's get going with some answers to questions we've gotten.
Okay, thank you, Yael. The first question is how to use variable data addresses on a 24-page newsletter sent to a digital press. We had difficulty with the Fiery wanting to print all 50 newsletters together as one booklet. It's actually an excellent question, and I think we covered this scenario in the first demo when I showed you how to do this in Word. So first, if you are in control of the material that you need to print for your customer, for your next job, you can try and convert this to a FreeForm job so that you can also have the benefit for later on. If you only can work with basically the PDF that has been sent to you by the customer, there is a feature on the Fiery called Set Page Record Length, which is in the same variable data tab in the print driver or in job properties. That's where you can set the number of pages per customer. Again, there's an extensive information about this in our VDP World of Fiery we did last year, where we actually show you how to use this in the presentation. Another question is, if we are printing mailouts, is there a way to print individual addresses on each postcard using Command Workstation? Currently, there's no way to add variable data information using Command Workstation or any of the other tools like Impose or JobMaster. If you want to do this, you will need to create a very simple template in Word or InDesign which only has the addresses, and then using FreeForm to stamp these on your postcards. I think the FreeForm kit actually has a few examples on how to do this. Another question, great question. How great is the difference in using VDP systems when switching from a Mac or PC? Using the tools that are shown you today, Microsoft Word and Adobe InDesign, but I also know, for instance, from the more advanced solutions like XMPy and Fusion Pro, there's absolutely no difference whatsoever. So mail merge capabilities, which have been in Microsoft Word for some time now, Adobe InDesign has added data merge features and the ability to add QR codes since a few years ago. These features behave exactly the same whether you use a Mac system or a PC system. Let's see, what are the other great questions?
Let's see, here's one. Is there a VDP tutorial online that I can download? Absolutely. We've got quite a lot of how-to guides online about VDP. We mentioned these when we talked about the resources, and again, these will be sent out to you following the session. We've got the FreeForm kit, and we've got some other tutorials on our EFI.com website that cover both advanced and complex VDP.
Okay. Another great question is, we have a recurring job we do often that is personalized and includes variable data text as well as variable images per record. We currently use InDesign with XMPy and export a huge multi-page PDF and send it to the Fari. I'd love to find a better and more efficient way to do this. Yes, I agree. Sending huge multi-page PDFs from an advanced application like XMPy, it does work, but then you need to fall back on pure performance. While we know the Fari beats many other DFEs when it comes to processing variable data jobs, so I believe you can gain significant performance improvements if, rather than sending a multi-page PDF, is that if you have the option enabled, I don't know whether XMPy comes with the ability to output to other languages like PPML, for instance, or even try and use optimized PDF or PDF VT. Please know that by using the advanced languages, and especially if you use applications like InDesign and XMPy, that if you have transparency, that might result in some unexpected behavior. And as Giselle mentioned, there will be a bonus video where I will explain more in depth what the different VDP languages are and how transparency is affected and how you can solve some of these issues with transparency using these advanced languages. Another question, can you talk about PPML? I've tried it before to use it with Fari, but I have not been able to, I have not been successful. First, PPML is one of the advanced languages, which I will explain more in our bonus video. PPML is usually generated by advanced applications like XMPy, Fusion Pro, GMC, etc. It depends also on the type of Fari that you have. If you have a simple Fari, mainly using the box that is stuck to the back of your engine, that probably won't be able to handle PPML. The simple Faris, they all support Fari FreeForm, but depending on the type of Fari you have and how much horsepower there's in the Fari, they will be able or won't be able to handle PPML. So if you do get an error trying to process this file immediately, that probably means that the Fari is unable to recognize PPML, and you would need an external, more powerful Fari if you want to use that VDP language. Other excellent question. If you do not have a Fari RIP, are we still able to merge the variable info before printing? Yes. So yeah, both examples we've shared in this presentation, both Word and InDesign, have the ability to do a simple mail merge or a simple data merge. So the output would be, you would print the Word document, or you would send the PDF or print the PDF to your non-Fari, which is unfortunate. I would highly advise you to contact one of the many partners we work with and to see whether switching to a Fari will actually help you to achieve the performance gains that we've shared so far. But yeah, even for the examples we've shared and the samples that we will share early next week, you can still use those, but unfortunately you can't use the Fari FreeForm. If I have a vet clinic customer and want to place the picture of the client's pet on their card, can I use FreeForm to use pictures as variable data? You cannot use FreeForm to place the images on the postcard, but you can use, as I've shown you, if you have InDesign, there's a very simple way to add the images by in that layout. If you prepend the column with the at sign and point them to the path and the actual picture, you can create a layout, an InDesign layout that would actually place that picture on the card. Text or CSV from Excel, I always use text. It depends on the application you use. So in both examples, I also use text files or CSV files. CSV is just it is a text file. It's just it's an extension that will tell Excel how to treat that. But again, it depends on the application that you would like to use for the. I have last question.
Yeah.
I have Fari Command Workstation but cannot locate Fari FreeForm. Is this an additional piece of software I need to install? No, Fari FreeForm is not something you need to install or enable. It should be available on all Faris that have shipped for many, many years. The person who asked this question, I would like to ask him to reach out to me directly using the email address that Yael mentioned, and we will see what's going on your system.
Yeah, and we can reach out to you and get more details and figure it out for you. So we are at the top of the hour, maybe a minute or two past. So to respect everybody's time, we will call it. I know that we have a few questions at least that we didn't get to, and as I mentioned very early on as we opened, if we didn't get back to you within the session about your question, we're not going to ignore it. We're going to get back to you via email, and we're also going to compile an FAQ, one document that has all the questions and answers, make that available to our entire audience so everybody can take advantage of the questions and answers that you and others might have had. Again, to reiterate, we will provide all the information to you. We have a couple more World of Fari sessions coming up that focus more on the inkjet. If you're interested in that information, check it out on our website. It is available. But for the Classic Fari, this is it for the year. We look forward to having you back with us in 2016. We'll share information about what those sessions will be early in the year, and hope you found this useful. Have a great day. Thank you to our presenters and our audience for joining. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.